Well, can I maybe comment on this? Because you're right. I mean, I've moved across many different industry sectors, and the one thing I learn is people are people. And I actually found it helped me. As long as you don't think, oh, well, it's like this in this sector, so it's going to be like that in another. But I actually think it does broaden your thinking. So, for example, I went from sort of healthcare, which is extremely long term, you know, to develop a drug takes many years. So long term thinking, then into financial services, where a credit card or a new product is there. And I thought that was great. I learned a lot. And but the people were the same. I think what's more important than actually the sector is actually the type of experience you have. And what I also found I learned, good and bad, was actually I've worked for companies, one memorable early in my career that almost went bankrupt, and we were sort of in intensive care. And I was I was promoted too quickly, probably, but literally where you're fighting for your company to stay alive, and you're having to do a fire sale. So that's great experience. And then to one that was acquired 6 months after I joined it in a hostile takeover. So that's, again, a very different type of experience, and I learned from that. And then if you're in a fast growth company, so I would say when I was in, for example, GE, what was, meteoric growth in the sector that I happened to be in, all of a sudden almost, was flushed down the toilet when the financial crash came. So the breadth of experience that you can get, good and bad, you learn from it, is as important as the industry sector. That's what I will look for, rather than, oh gosh, this person, has to have some banking. In some industries, you have to, if, for example, financial service, it helps if you've got regulatory, the experience of it, but it depends on the role.
Yeah, absolutely right. And context is king, and you can have more difference between companies within a sector than across sectors.
Yeah.
And I would say this, wouldn't I? I've always followed the role and the job and the board, etc. And the sector, I continue to be agnostic about. The realities are, however, particularly in economic downturns, that hirers will use sector as a criteria. And therefore, if they've got 50 CVs, or whatever the new CV is by then, they will, just as a mechanism to cut it down to 10, will filter out on sector. So if you want that progression, then you may well want to pick a sector and move within, but be aware you are limiting your opportunities, those chance encounters, to get more experience. So over the long term, my view would remain that the more sectors you go into, the more chance you're going to get, the more learning, the more random, unstructured stuff that's going to happen to you. That's where you're going to learn from. And I think also, Caroline, the influence of one of the last things you said was, I certainly have learned as much from bad companies and bad sectors as I have good ones.
Yes.
And on my deathbed, I'll tell you who they are. But before then, my lips are sealed. So you just go out there, be open. Don't overplan these things, he said rather randomly, and just be open to the opportunities that different sectors can.